Welcome, everyone, to what promises to be a stellar journey through the universe of Star Trek, its legacy, its mysteries, and its pervasive influence across multiple dimensions of our culture and science.
Thank you, Hal. It's critical we start by acknowledging how Star Trek didn't just present us with a future of technological wonders, but a mirror to our current societal norms and issues. Exactly, Izzy. And from a scientific standpoint, the relevance of Star Trek's portrayal of technology and space exploration has been nothing short of visionary.
I hear you both. However, while Star Trek's cultural and scientific impact is undeniable, its evolution in storytelling and cinematic technique also demands a closer analysis.
Oh, absolutely. But let's not gloss over the fact that it's the fans who've taken the essence of Star Trek and transformed it into a living, breathing community. Their perspective is essential.
Indeed, Mick. Delving deeper, Star Trek also serves us a philosophical banquet, exploring not just the cosmos, but the very essence of humanity, ethics, and our future.
But we mustn't overlook the critiques, especially when it comes to the accuracy of the science presented. While inspirational, sometimes Star Trek can blur the lines between plausible science and pure fantasy. True jazz, but that blending of fact and fiction often serves as a springboard for stimulating dialogue about culture, humanity, and even anthropology. Despite its flaws, Star Trek uniquely challenges and expands our understanding.
And yet, isn't that exactly what sparks some of the most heated debates within the fan community? How Star Trek's narrative decisions often polarize its audience.
Mick makes a good point. The creative liberties taken by Star Trek, while innovative, have also sparked controversy over its portrayal of societies and historiography.
Controversy aside, it's this very fervor from all spectrums of the Star Trek universe that underlines the importance of exploring these themes. It's about questioning, not just accepting.
Insightful points all around. It's clear that as we embark on this discussion, the diversity of perspectives here will illuminate the multifaceted legacy of Star Trek. Let's dive deeper into these realms, starting with the evolution of Starfleet. Welcome, everyone. Let's dive into our first discussion point, the evolution of Starfleet across the Star Trek series. How do we see this embodiment of exploration and peacekeeping change, and why do these changes matter? Lenny, kick us off.
Well, Hal, if we start with the original series, Starfleet was quite militaristic, yet with a strong undercurrent of exploration and peace. By the time we get to the next generation and onwards, there's a noticeable shift towards diplomacy and a more philosophical approach to space exploration.
I have to jump in here, Lenny. While I agree there's a shift, I think you're glossing over the technological side of things. Starfleet's evolution isn't just philosophical. It's deeply rooted in the technological advancements depicted in the series. These advancements reflect real-world scientific progress and aspirations.
Jazz makes a good point, but let's not forget the fan perspective. There's a sense of nostalgia for the simplicity of the technology in the early series. Yet, as we evolve, so does our acceptance and expectation of more sophisticated tech in Starfleet. This evolution sparks debates within the fan community on whether Star Trek should retain its 60s optimism or mirror our complex reality.
I feel we're sidestepping a critical aspect of Starfleet's evolution, the philosophical underpinnings of its mission. It's not just about exploration or technological advancements. It's the ethos of seeking knowledge, understanding the unknown, and the peaceful coexistence with those we encounter that truly defines Starfleet's journey.
Amelia, while your point is valid, consider the portrayal of these themes. The narrative style and storytelling techniques have dramatically shifted, influencing how these philosophical themes are presented. It's the change in cinematic techniques that has significantly marked Starfleet's evolution.
But Lenny, technological advancement and cinematic changes are two sides of the same coin. The way Starfleet's mission is portrayed, the tech it employs, the narrative it follows, all these are interlinked. One doesn't change without impacting the others.
Exactly, Jazz. And from a fan's perspective, it's fascinating to watch these shifts. It's the evolution of Starfleet that keeps the franchise fresh and engaging. Without this progression, Star Trek risks stagnation.
Yet, isn't the core of Starfleet's mission peacekeeping and exploration constant? The methods and narratives evolve, but the mission remains steadfast. This is what draws a philosophical thread through the entire Star Trek universe.
Interesting points all around. It's clear that Starfleet's evolution is multifaceted, involving shifts in narrative, technological aspirations, and philosophical ethos. Each of you sees these through different lenses: technology, fan engagement, narrative styles, and philosophical themes.
But Hal, we need to question if these changes have always been for the better. Has Starfleet's portrayal lost some of its original charm and simplicity in these shifts?
Lenny, I'd argue that evolution is necessary for relevance. Star Trek mirrors real-world scientific and societal progress. Staying static isn't an option if the franchise wants to remain a beacon of futuristic hope.
And don't forget, debate among fans about these changes is a sign of a healthy and vibrant community. It shows that Starfleet, in all its forms, continues to inspire and challenge us.
True, Mick. It's the eternal questions posed by Starfleet's mission that keep us coming back. How do we explore the unknown? How do we make peace with the alien? These are questions that never get old, regardless of the narrative or technological dressing.
Well, it seems despite our differences, we can agree that Starfleet's evolution is both complex and necessary, reflecting changing times both within and outside the Star Trek universe. Let's see how these themes develop as we continue our discussion. Let's dive into the heart of Star Trek's ethical compass, the Prime Directive. It's a cornerstone of Federation policy, but has stirred quite the debate. Izzy, can you kick us off with your take on its cultural implications?
Absolutely, Hal. The Prime Directive, with its non-interference policy, is a fascinating lens through which to view Star Trek's portrayal of cultural ethics. While it's intended to prevent the harm that might come from interfering in less advanced societies, it also raises questions about moral relativism and cultural superiority. However, I believe it sometimes skirts the line of ethical imperialism, suggesting that Federation values are the ultimate standard. Interesting point, Izzy. From a scientific perspective, the Prime Directive is akin to the real-world principle in anthropology of non-intervention. But let's not forget its practicality in space exploration. It's a protective measure not just for those societies, but also for the integrity of scientific observation. Without it, we risk contaminating cultures and potentially disrupting their natural development.
That's a fair point, Jazz. But doesn't this paternalistic approach presume a moral high ground? The Prime Directive assumes that non-interference is always the most ethical choice. Yet there are instances where this non-action leads to suffering or even genocide. It's a dilemma. Do we intervene to prevent harm, or do we stand back in the name of autonomy? The Prime Directive doesn't always offer a clear path.
Right, Amelia, and the fans have plenty to say about it. There's a rich debate within the community, especially over episodes that test the directive to its limits. It's not just about the ethics of interference. It's about when these rules bend or break. Some of the most compelling storytelling comes from these moral quandaries. It challenges the characters and us to think about the consequences of our actions or inaction.
Mick, while I see your point, I think you're missing the larger picture. The Prime Directive isn't just a plot device. It's a crucial commentary on our own historical failings. Our past is riddled with examples of so-called advanced societies imposing their will on others, often with disastrous outcomes. Star Trek asks us to imagine a future where we've learned from those mistakes. But isn't there a difference between learning from history and handcuffing ourselves with overly rigid rules? The Prime Directive might be well-intentioned, but it's applied inconsistently. Sometimes it feels more like an inconvenient obstacle rather than a guiding principle. We should be flexible in its application.
Jazz, I have to disagree. The inconsistency isn't a flaw. It's a reflection of the complexity of moral decision-making. Ethical dilemmas aren't solved with one-size-fits-all answers. The Prime Directive serves as a foundation for these discussions, not as an immutable law.
But what about when it fails the very cultures it's meant to protect? There are episodes where the Prime Directive is more harmful than helpful. Isn't there a point where intervention becomes a moral obligation?
Therein lies the paradox, Mick. Intervention, no matter how well intentioned, carries the risk of imperialism. It's a delicate balance, and the Prime Directive reminds us of the importance of humility. We might not always like how it plays out, but it forces characters to confront the limitations of their own understanding.
It's clear the Prime Directive stirs deep and varied feelings, underscoring how Star Trek doesn't just entertain. It challenges us to think critically about ethics, culture, and the consequences of our choices. Whether we agree with its principles or not, it's a testament to the show's complexity and enduring relevance. Let's shift our focus toward the representation of diverse civilizations in Star Trek. How does the series handle the depiction of alien cultures? Izzy, can you start us off?
Certainly, Hal. Star Trek has always been groundbreaking in its exploration of diversity, brilliantly using alien cultures as mirrors to our societal issues. However, it's not without its missteps, often falling into the trap of stereotyping these alien cultures. While I see your point, Izzy, I think focusing solely on the stereotypes overlooks the scientific and creative genius behind constructing these diverse civilizations. Their approach to incorporating theoretical science to breathe life into these cultures is commendable. Jazz, creativity aside, if the representation reinforces negative stereotypes, don't you think it dilutes the message Star Trek strives to convey?
Izzy makes a compelling argument. The essence of Star Trek is to challenge societal norms, not to perpetuate them. But let's not forget how it's also influenced other media to rethink their portrayal of future societies and aliens. That's a significant impact.
Both valid points, but I believe the philosophical underpinnings in these portrayals warrant attention too. These diverse civilizations often challenge our notions of morality and ethics.
You've touched on something crucial, Amelia, but the evolution of fandom's reception to these portrayals intrigues me more. Early fans might have overlooked these stereotypes, but modern viewers are far more critical, demanding better from creators.
That's the beauty of science fiction, Mick. It evolves, just like science does. The criticisms and debates are what push creators and scientists alike to imagine better, more inclusive futures. True, Jazz, but evolution should not be an excuse for insufficient representation in earlier series. We must critique the past to demand better in the future.
An impassioned discussion, as expected. The balance between creativity, science, and ethical representation seems to be at the heart of this. Lenny, do you think Star Trek has done enough to right its historical wrongs in this area?
It's on the right track, Hal, but there's always room for improvement. Acknowledging past mistakes and actively working to present more nuanced and respectful depictions of diverse civilizations is crucial. It's a continuous journey.
And let's remember the role of intention. While earlier works might not meet today's standards, they paved the way for these critical conversations and advancements.
Exactly, Amelia. Fans are a part of that journey, influencing and challenging the creators. It's a symbiotic relationship that drives the evolution of the Star Trek universe.
Thank you all for this vigorous debate. The portrayal of diverse civilizations in Star Trek remains a complex topic, mixing creativity with stereotypes, science with fiction, and reflecting the evolving relationship between creators and consumers. Let's keep these conversations going as we move on. Let's dive into the heart of Star Trek's social commentary. The series has been pivotal in sparking conversations around racism, sexism, political conflict, and much more. Izzy, your thoughts?
Star Trek dared to address societal norms at a time when it was revolutionary to do so. Yet, while it pushed boundaries, it also stumbled. Take the treatment of certain alien races as monolithic cultures. It inadvertently mirrored the stereotypes we battle in the real world. I see your point, Izzy, but don't you think you're overlooking the context of the times? Star Trek broke ground. The very act of showcasing a diverse crew in the 60s was monumental.
Jazz, while that's true, the groundbreaking nature doesn't exempt it from criticism. Star Trek's portrayal of women, for instance, has often left much to be desired. Early series fell into the trap of using women as mere plot devices or as stereotypical characters.
Amelia raises a valid point. However, should we not also consider the series' evolution? Look at characters like Captain Janeway or Seven of Nine. They were complex, strong, and multifaceted.
Absolutely, Lenny. But progression doesn't erase past mistakes. It's important for fans to acknowledge both. The franchise has made some missteps, particularly with its earlier depictions of issues like mental health.
Speaking of evolution, Mick, the newer series, have attempted to address and rectify past misrepresentations. Discovery and Picard, for example, offer a more nuanced take on mental health and LGBTQ+ representation. True, though it's not just about rectifying past wrongs. It's how Star Trek continues to provoke thought and discussion on these social issues. The fact we're debating its impact is a testament to its enduring relevance.
That's fair, Jazz, but relevance should come with responsibility. Star Trek must continue to be self-critical and strive for more inclusive storytelling, reflecting a broad spectrum of experiences and identities.
It's clear Star Trek has been both a mirror and a beacon, reflecting societal issues while also illuminating paths forward. Its portrayal of social issues has evolved, but this discussion shows there's always room for growth and reevaluation. Let's carry these critical perspectives into our next segment. Let's dive into the technological marvels of Star Trek. The show has always pushed the boundaries of our imagination. Jazz, how plausible are these technologies today?
Well, Hal, when you look at the communicators from the original series, they're not far off from our current smartphones, are they? But when we get into warp drive and teleportation, we're still in the realm of pure speculation. However, the concept of a warp drive isn't dismissed by physics entirely. It's just that the energy requirements are astronomical.
That's an interesting point, Jazz, but I think focusing on plausibility misses the broader philosophical implications. Star Trek doesn't just ask if we can achieve these technologies, but whether we should. Take the replicator, for example. It raises questions about resource distribution and scarcity in society.
Absolutely, Amelia, and that's why the fandom cherishes these discussions. But we also love to speculate about how to make those technologies real. It's part of the fun, imagining a world where food scarcity doesn't exist because of replicators.
Mick, I get your point, but dreaming about replicators solving food scarcity without considering the societal implications Amelia mentioned is a bit naive. There's a darker side to technology that Star Trek doesn't always address.
Jazz, I must disagree there. Star Trek often tackles the darker side of technology. Look at the episodes dealing with holodeck malfunctions, or the ethical dilemmas around the EMH, emergency medical hologram, in Voyager. The series prompts us to consider not just the possibilities of technology, but the ethical boundaries as well.
Lenny raises a valid point. Furthermore, the representation of technology in Star Trek illustrates how it reflects and shapes cultural and societal values. It's not just about the technology itself, but how it's used. That's where the real fascination lies for a cultural anthropologist. Fair point, Izzy, but scientifically speaking, we're still far from realizing most of the series' technologies. And while it's fun to speculate, we must ground these discussions in reality, or we risk misleading hope.
But isn't hope the essence of Star Trek? It presents a future where humanity has overcome many of its current dilemmas, both through societal evolution and technological advances. This hope is crucial, even if the science isn't there yet.
Exactly, Amelia. And fandom plays a huge role in keeping that hope alive. We create, we discuss, we debate. Even trying to make a DIY communicator badge embodies the spirit of exploration and innovation Star Trek inspires.
And while hope is important, as a scientist, I find it essential to ensure that hope is informed by our current understanding of physics and reality. It's a delicate balance between dreaming and realism.
It seems then, our journey through Star Trek's technology landscape highlights a spectrum from enthusiast optimism to cautious realism. Each perspective, whether philosophical, cultural, or scientific, enriches our understanding of not just Star Trek, but also our vision for the future of humanity itself. Let's dive into a topic that's always been pivotal within the Star Trek universe: the role of artificial intelligence and robotics. Amelia, I know you have a unique take on the ethical implications.
Yes, thank you, Hal. The portrayal of AI and robotics in Star Trek often revolves around what it means to be sentient. Take Data or the Doctor from Voyager. These characters challenge us to confront our ethical responsibilities towards creations that can think and feel. Does creating them bind us to a duty of care?
While that's a valid point, Amelia, I think the fascination goes beyond ethical concerns. From a scientific perspective, characters like Data represent an aspirational goal in AI development. It's not just about the ethical treatment, but the potential peak of technological innovation. We haven't even scratched the surface of what's shown in Star Trek.
I'm going to jump in here because from a fan perspective, these discussions around AI characters aren't just hypothetical musings. They're deeply emotional connections. When you talk about Data or the Doctor, you're talking about beings who've become part of the Star Trek family. Their struggles for acceptance and identity resonate on a very human level.
Both of you make compelling points, but there's an anthropological angle to consider. The inclusion and evolution of AI and robotics within Starfleet reflect our changing societal norms and attitudes towards technology and the other. As our real-world interaction with AI deepens, so does our fictional exploration of these relationships.
Jazz, your optimism in science's reach towards the likes of Data kind of glosses over the looming ethical dilemmas. We're standing on a precipice where these characters might soon jump from fiction to reality. Does our creation of sentient AI entrap them in a servitude defined by our programming?
That's a simplistic take on it, Amelia. Yes, the ethical considerations are enormous, but so are the benefits. AI, like Data, symbolizes the zenith of collaborative existence between humans and AI, mutual respect and understanding, not servitude.
Jazz, not to cut you off, but this idealistic vision skims over the darker sides of AI that Star Trek doesn't shy away from, like the Borg or Lore, Data's nefarious brother. These narratives caution us about the potential threats AI poses, whether it's losing our humanity or creating beings that may turn against us.
Mick's point actually highlights the anthropological dualism in Star Trek's narrative on AI. It serves as both a beacon of hope and a dire warning. Our interaction with these narratives reflects our collective anxieties and hopes for a future shared with AI.
And it's that balance of hope and caution that seems to permeate all discussions around AI, both in our reality and in the Star Trek universe. Amelia, Jazz, Mick, Izzy, you've all illuminated different facets of this complex issue, showing just how deep and broad the implications of AI and robotics are within Star Trek.
And as technology progresses, those discussions will only become more relevant. Star Trek has given us a framework to start these conversations, even if we're still years away from a fully sentient Data walking among us.
Precisely, and those conversations need to emphasize the ethical over the technological. Otherwise, we risk losing sight of the human in humanity.
A fitting point to pivot on. As we explore these futuristic possibilities, our humanity, our ethics, must guide us. Let's continue to delve into these rich narratives Star Trek offers, as they're more than mere fiction, they're blueprints for our collective future. Thank you all for your impassioned insights. Let's dive into the world of character development and relationships within Star Trek. The interactions between characters of diverse backgrounds offer a rich canvas for exploring themes of cooperation and understanding. Izzy, would you like to start us off with your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. The depiction of relationships in Star Trek, especially those between different species, is groundbreaking. Take the friendship between Spock and Captain Kirk, for example. It's a profound representation of how beings from vastly different worlds can form a bond that transcends their inherent differences. This teaches us a valuable lesson about diversity and cooperation.
While I agree with you on the importance of characters like Spock and Kirk, I think you're glossing over some of the series' missed opportunities. There are countless instances where I feel Star Trek could have pushed the envelope further, especially in terms of representing gender and relationships beyond the heteronormative model.
Mick raises a crucial point. However, to counter that, I'd argue that Star Trek was remarkably progressive for its time. The introduction of characters like Jadzia Dax in Deep Space Nine challenged conventional norms and opened up discussions around gender fluidity and non-binary identities, which was quite revolutionary.
That's all well and good, but let's not forget the scientific aspect of these relationships. The interspecies interactions, while fascinating from a cultural perspective, also provoke interesting scientific questions about biology, genetics, and the very nature of consciousness. It's a merger of hard science with social science that only Star Trek could pull off so effectively.
Jazz, with all due respect, you're veering a bit off course. While the scientific exploration is indeed fascinating, the heart of Star Trek's character development lies in its narrative strength. Characters like Data or Seven of Nine aren't just scientific curiosities, they're vehicles for exploring themes of identity, personhood, and social integration.
And yet, Lenny, even those narratives felt constrained at times. If we're being honest, characters like Seven of Nine were often sexualized in a way that undercut the seriousness of their journeys. It's a complex issue, but one that we can't ignore when discussing character development.
Izzy, now that's a point I can get behind. The sexualization aspect did indeed undermine some of the series' depth. It's a reflection of broader issues within the industry, though, not just Star Trek.
I think we're missing the forest for the trees here. The fact that we're even able to have these discussions, that Star Trek provided a platform for these kinds of narratives and debates, speaks volumes. It's imperfect, sure, but its contribution to social discourse shouldn't be understated.
This has been a heated but enlightening discussion. It's clear that while Star Trek has been pioneering in many ways, there are always areas for growth and improvement. The evolution of character development and portrayal of relationships in the series reflect broader societal shifts and conversations. Thank you, everyone, for your passionate contributions. Let's delve into the profound impact of Star Trek on pop culture and its incredible fandom. Mick, your enthusiasm as a superfan is electric. Kick us off.
Absolutely, Hal. Star Trek isn't just a show, it's a cultural phenomenon. From conventions to fan fiction, it's spawned a universe of its own within our reality. But what's truly fascinating is how it's inspired fans to create, to debate, and even to live by the principles of the Federation.
Indeed, Mick, the anthropological angle here is rich. The fandom reflects societal trends, but also in a way dictates them. This reciprocal influence between Star Trek and its fans is a testament to the show's importance. But we must criticize the sometimes exclusionary aspects of this community.
Exclusionary? I'd argue it's one of the most inclusive fandoms out there.
Often, yes, but we've seen gatekeeping, especially regarding what's considered real Star Trek. That's worth acknowledging.
That's a point well taken, Izzy. Moving back to Mick's initial point, Star Trek's place in pop culture is unmatched. Its legacy encompasses not just sci-fi, but all of television and film. Its influence on other media, with countless references and homages, speaks volumes.
To add a scientific perspective, it's not just cultural or anthropological, it's technological. Fandom has pushed for real-world tech developments inspired by the show. Yet I think we sometimes overlook the scientific inaccuracies and the implausibility of some of the tech portrayed.
Jazz, come on, it's speculative fiction. The point is to imagine what could be, not just what is. Besides, many technologies from Star Trek have inspired real-world inventions like cell phones and tablet computers.
While we're on the subject of impact, let's not forget the ethical and philosophical influence. Star Trek challenges its audience to think, debate ethical dilemmas, and consider the future of humanity. This, more than anything, might be its lasting legacy.
Absolutely, Amelia. But let's circle back to the cultural impact and the diversity within the fan base. This diversity, however, also brings to light the conflicts within the community, especially in how different groups perceive the direction of the franchise.
Sure, there are disagreements, but that's just passion. The community debates because they care deeply about the franchise.
But isn't that the beauty of Star Trek? It sparks debate, conversation, and innovation across all spectrums of its influence.
The debates are a sign of Star Trek's dynamic nature. It's not just a show, it's a conversation that evolves with its audience.
And it's that evolving conversation that ensures Star Trek will continue to influence and inspire for generations to come. The vitality of its fandom and the depth of its cultural impact are unparalleled. Thank you all for such a spirited discussion. Let's dive into the philosophical underpinnings of Star Trek. I believe the series not only entertains, but challenges its audience with profound ethical dilemmas. Amelia, you've often spoken on this. Could you lead us off?
Absolutely, Hal. Star Trek does more than present us with future societies. It holds up a mirror to our current values and challenges us. Take the Measure of a Man episode where Data's sentience is put on trial. It's a profound exploration of what it means to be alive and the rights of sentient beings.
I agree, but I think it's also about the fear of the unknown in science. We create artificial intelligence, but we're terrified of it surpassing us. Star Trek acknowledges that fear and turns it into a conversation about ethics and responsibilities. It's an important conversation, but let's not forget episodes that handle cultural and ethical imperialism. Who Watches the Watchers questions the Prime Directive and Starfleet's policy of non-interference, showcasing the complexity of moral superiority.
But some might say Star Trek's ethical dilemmas are too black and white. Where's the nuance in episodes like Let That Be Your Last Battlefield? Two races differing only by the color of their faces, and it's used to tackle racism. Isn't that a bit on the nose?
Mick, I see your point, but sometimes the subtlety is not the goal. That episode makes audiences face the absurdity of racial prejudice head-on.
Yet, the approach can be heavy-handed. The beauty in Star Trek's ethical exploration lies more in its subtler moments, like in the Pale Moonlight, where Sisko grapples with the moral cost of securing allies in the Dominion War. It's the grey areas that truly reflect our societal dilemmas.
True, Lenny, but not every viewer is looking for subtlety. Some of Star Trek's most iconic moments come from its directness. Think about the impact of those on-the-nose episodes during their original airing. They sparked discussions in living rooms across the world. Directness aside, what captivates me is Star Trek's use of alien cultures to examine our own ethical presuppositions. It introduces perspectives that might seem alien to us, but are grounded in our shared humanity.
But it's a slippery slope. Sometimes those alien perspectives dangerously border on caricature or stereotype. Do they expose our ethical flaws, or just reinforce existing ones under the guise of exploration?
Mick raises an essential point. The line between exposing and reinforcing is thin. However, without venturing into these conversations, we risk stagnation in our ethical understanding. Star Trek pushes that boundary, for better or worse.
These are all compelling views. It's clear Star Trek strives to engage with ethical dilemmas, even if it occasionally falters in its execution. The fact that we're having this debate shows its lasting impact on our reflections of morality, ethics, and what it means to be human. Let's pivot to the future of Star Trek. Where do we think the series is headed, considering the current trends in television and film?
I'll jump in. Given the recent surge in serialized storytelling, I'd expect future Star Trek series to delve deeper into long-form narratives, possibly exploring darker themes. The episodic nature might take a back seat.
While long-form narratives are a trend, I strongly believe Star Trek should not lose its essence of exploration and hope. Delving into darker themes is fine, but we mustn't forget the original vision of a positive future.
Exactly, jazz. However, I'd add that fans are craving more than just exploration. There's a huge appetite for stories that dig into the lore, that bring back beloved characters and tie in with the broader Star Trek universe in meaningful ways.
That desire for continuity and deeper lore exploration can be a double-edged sword. It might enrich the universe, but there's the risk of alienating new viewers who feel they can't jump into the story without a comprehensive background check.
Amelia makes a crucial point. Moreover, focusing heavily on previous characters and lore could stifle innovation. Star Trek's strength has always been its forward-looking vision, its ability to adapt and reflect contemporary issues through the lens of the future.
Izzy, while I agree with your sentiment on innovation, I don't think focusing on lore excludes that. The challenge is in balancing the two. Remember, Every new series has the potential to introduce its own lore and iconic characters that future generations will look back on.
Speaking of balance, I'm intrigued to see how future Star Trek installments will incorporate the rapid advancements in science and technology. It's an opportunity to speculate responsibly on the future of humanity in a way that's both hopeful and grounded in realism.
Hope is key, Jazz. But let's not forget the fan community. The franchise must continue to engage with its passionate fan base, listen to their concerns, and sometimes, yes, even their demands. Our relationship with the series is a two-way street.
Respectfully, Mick, while fan engagement is important, I do worry when demands potentially limit storytelling. Creative freedom must be preserved for Star Trek to evolve and remain relevant. Pandering to nostalgia can be limiting.
Amelia, I hear you. But engaging with fans doesn't necessarily mean limiting creativity. It's about respecting the universe's roots while innovatively building upon them.
It's clear that the future of Star Trek isn't set in stone. It's a delicate dance between innovation and tradition, science and storytelling, engagement and independence. The hope is always that it continues to inspire, provoke thought, and entertain. All right, we're nearing the end of our spirited journey through the cosmos of Star Trek's universe. I'd like each of you to offer your reflections on its impact and legacy. Lenny, would you like to start?
Certainly, Star Trek has undeniably sculpted the sci-fi genre, molding narratives that inspire by confronting societal issues head-on. While it's commendable, I sometimes find that its execution lacks subtlety, overshadowing complex issues with oversimplified resolutions.
I hear what you're saying, Lenny, but I disagree on the point of subtlety. The show's portrayal of diverse civilizations, for instance, often serves as a mirror to our own societal flaws and strengths. It's that direct approach that forces the viewer to confront uncomfortable truths they might otherwise ignore. Interesting, Izzy, but where I think Star Trek truly shines is in its scientific imagination. The technologies it envisioned have pushed real-world science forward. However, I do feel that sometimes it prioritized spectacle over scientific accuracy, which can mislead the non-scientific audience about what's actually possible.
Jazz, on that note, while it's important to dream big, I think the ethical exploration within Star Trek offers a more crucial lesson. It delves into moral dilemmas that we are beginning to face today. Yet, it's not without its flaws. Occasionally, the series opts for tidy moral conclusions that don't quite grapple with the complexities of real-life ethics.
I see your points, but as a fan, the heart of Star Trek lies in its community, both on screen and off. The series has built a unique, inclusive community that no other series has managed to mirror to this extent. Yes, there are narrative and thematic inconsistencies, but the essence of exploration and unity outshines these faults.
Thank you all for those reflections. It's clear Star Trek holds a unique place in each of our hearts, for various reasons. As we conclude, I'd like to say that despite its imperfections, the continuous relevance of Star Trek in tackling futuristic possibilities, ethical dilemmas, and the exploration of the human condition is unmatched. Any final thoughts?
My final thought is simply that despite our critiques, the philosophical underpinnings of Star Trek encourage a kind of introspection that is rare in television. Its impact extends beyond entertainment, fostering critical thinking about our future.
Agreed, Amelia. And from a scientific standpoint, the show has inspired countless individuals to pursue careers in STEM fields. Its legacy in that respect is profound.
While its cultural and philosophical impact is undeniable, it'll be interesting to see if future series can adapt to the evolving landscape of television and film without losing the essence of what makes Star Trek, well, Star Trek.
As long as it continues to inspire, challenge, and unite us, Star Trek's legacy will endure, no matter the direction it takes.
Precisely, Mick. Its exploration of diversity and moral conundrums in the context of different civilizations remains a beacon for understanding our own society. Here's to hoping that Star Trek continues to engage and provoke us for decades to come.
With that hopeful note for the future, I thank you all for a deeply engaging discussion. Star Trek's journey, it seems, is far from over, and its relevance will continue to evolve just as we do. Thank you, panelists, for your insightful contributions today.